Hi, today we are going to discuss about synchronous and asynchronous programming in Node.js. Basically, synchronous programming means executing tasks sequentially one after another. It means it will be executing sequentially after completing one task, and after completing second task, third task will be executed. After completing third task, fourth task will be executed, and so on. So, which can be led to the blocking behavior. It means you have to wait for the other process to execute until that other lower priority process has to wait. The benefits are easier to write and understand. It follows linear execution order, simplified error handling and debugging since tasks completed one at a time. Here, a common use case is ideal for tasks that must occur in a strict order, such as handling user interaction in user interface. Asynchronous programming. It allows tasks to be executed concurrently without blocking the execution of subsequent tasks. For example, process 1 want to complete and process 2 want to complete. For example, process 1 is having a 1 GB of data to copy, process 2 is having 10 MB of data to copy. So up to 10 MB process 1 will be completing. So when lower task has come and it is taking less time, so based upon that time, so we have operating system different methods, round robin, first in first out, and we are having shortest job first, priority scheduling. All the algorithms are there. So we can able to say based upon the priority, it is also a kind of asynchronous programming. So instead of waiting for one task to complete, the program can iterate other tasks while waiting for the first task to finish. Benefits are improved performance by executing tasks concurrently, making better use of resources, better user experience, especially for web applications where asynchronous loading reduces wait time, fault tolerance, and one failed task doesn't necessarily halt the entire application. For example, a limited time will be given in order to execute task. So time slice based upon that, if it is having any fault, so other doesn't want to wait for entire application. Example, it is suited for application that can run independently, such as file IO, so file input output, network request or background processing. Here we are having a asynchronous programming and asynchronous programming comparison. If you are going to consider the user interface management, so task needing a strict order. Here in synchronous programming, so task 1 has to complete in 10 seconds, after task 2, after task 3, after task 4. So here if you are going to see the time taken is 28 seconds. So whereas in the asynchronous programming, it is going to take only 10 seconds. For example, task 1 has completed in 10 seconds. So at parallel, it is also running the task 2 and task 3 and task 4. So here the maximum time taken by a task to complete is 10 seconds. So whereas here it is going to take the more 28 seconds in order to complete the all tasks. Next, Metasync library. Metasync library provides a functional approach to asynchronous I/O with the specific abstractions like function composition, error handling, and support for both sequential and parallel execution. So, if you are working with this web environment and you have to consider the request, for example, from a movie website, you are going to make a parallel downloads. So at the time, the user may doing some kind of attack like SQL injection attack or some other kind of attack may be happen. So at the time, so you need to make sure that how you are going to sync the things and based upon the IP address and how you are going to provide the security and all the things. So here we are having a different approaches. So one of the approach is using a Metasync library. So first one is flow, allows the function composition for asynchronous operations. Next one is data collector, gather results from the asynchronous operations. Next, key collector, gather results based upon the specific keys useful for handling multiple asynchronous operations and aggregating the results. Next one is throttle and queue, it controls the rate of function executions and handle the job queues. For example, you are going to download a particular data from the site. So at that time you should have a retry logic. Without retry logic, you can't able to execute the program, because so while downloading, so it was interrupted due to that one. Otherwise, it has to retry the website. For example, you are going to use some website, and your data got interrupted at that time. So error in page will be occur. So whenever the connection is established, so at that time you may redirect it to the particular page automatically. So that kind of operations are supported by the Metasync library also. So in order to use the Metasync library, you need to use a package called npm install Metasync. So next, you need to set the execution policy is restricted, and you need to set the execution policy remote signed. So scope is current user in your PowerShell. So next, you can able to install the Metasync library. So here you are having a program in Metasync. So because here we have given a function called f, so that is said to be a throttling function, where whenever a function is called, a new date will and a time will be shown. It is converted to the string. So ISO format, so where it is going to show your date and time zone. So here we have given the constant t1 Metasync throttle, and here function is already defined, so it will be showing the date, and here every 5 seconds, so 5000 milliseconds means every 5 seconds it will be refreshing. So t1 will execute, and t1 will be ignored in 5 seconds, and t1 will be ignored within the 5 seconds, because every 5 seconds it will be calling the multiple times. So now here we are going to set the timeout. So t1, so we are calling t1, so all the functions we are calling is t1. So whenever we are going to call the t1, so t1 is a variable where it is going to assign with the Metasync throttle, so which is already predefined in the particular package called require Metasync. So where f is a function, so what kind of function it is? It is a arrow function where it is going to call the date. So here if you are going to see this particular program, it is going to show the date. So what it has shown, so it is going to show the module was not found. So for that, what you need to do, so we need to install the npm Metasync. So it is going to install the Metasync library. So after that, if you are going to rerun the program, it will be showing the result. So now function is called after 5 seconds, and it is going to call the next other functions. So here how many number of t1 functions you have given? So totally 1, 2, 3 number of t1 functions, and finally you are going to execute another t1 function. So totally 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 times we have executed. So next, enhancement and utilities. First one is the timeout wrapping. Wrapping functions with the timeouts to prevent them from running too long. For example, a timeout has occurred in a particular program. So this particular timeout wrapping will help the user. So whenever the particular website is going to be timeout. So next, cancelable functions. So when we can able to use the cancelable functions, it means making the functions cancelable if needed. For example, user is going to cancel the download, or user want to cancel some particular pop-ups, so like that you can able to use the cancelable functions. Next, promiseification. So this one already we have discussed. So converting the callback based functions into the promise based ones. Next one, retry logic. So some retry logic will be using by default within your browser itself. So at the time you will be using a retry logic, which is useful for occurring the errors in the website, and it will be retrying the multiple times, so without knowing by the user, so that it will be keep on trying the until it is going to get the success. So next, rate limiting restricts the number of times a function can be called within a given frame. This is useful when you want to prevent the overloading application program interfaces or services. Fn is a function or a placeholder, so it refers whenever you want to grab or modify some way, so such as adding the timeout or cancelling the data or handling the retrace, so that we can able to mention in the function. So next, ms stands for milliseconds, how many milliseconds you want to retry a particular logic, or you want to make the allow the event for the wrapped function in order to complete. So next one, arguments. So where you can able to use the rest parameter syntax in JavaScript, which allows the function to accept any number of arguments. So based upon the logic, you can able to use three dots, so which is a syntax before the parameter in an array. So next, timeout wrapping program. So here you can able to mention the timeout. So based upon the how many milliseconds we want to uh, timeout the logic. So first one, you are going to use a constant timeout. So it accepts the two parameters. First one is function and another one is milliseconds. So here we are going to accept the function with the arguments. So in the return arguments we are having a two things, resolve or reject. So if the a constant timeout has occurred, you are going to reject, the function is going to timeout, and it is going to show how many number of milliseconds. So here we have a, if any exception is catched, so that particular will be used by the implied function, so arrow function, so where it is going to clear the timeout, which is already defined predefined function timeout, so timeout. So next, it is going to call the reject and error. So now here we are using a simulated asynchronous function, so constant fetch data, new promise, resolve. So here we are having a resolve the result. So next we are going to set the timeout, and we are going to get the resolved data to be fetched. So where it has given 3 seconds. So next, wrapping timeout is given for 2 seconds. So we are going to call the wrapper timeout, fetch the data timeout. So then, so result is console.log result. So where you are going to get the result in the console log. So if any exception has occurred, you are going to get the message in the error. For example, HTTP request can able to take the some long time in order to get the timeout. So it is going to show the function is timed out. So only once it will be taking. So we have not initiated the any function in order to make the timeout. So next, cancelable functions. So we can able to use a cancelable functions if any particular task you want to run. For example, here you are going to use a run. You are running a long task. So you can able to start the task by the cancelable function, and you can able to set the timeout. So next, you can able to print the message after 1 second, and you can able to cancel after 5 seconds. So for that we have used a arguments. So here you are using a function. So if the function is not cancelled, so then here you are using a function with the arguments. So where you are going to pass the function with the arguments. So here we are going to pass the arguments. So cancel and 5000. So this is also a particular arguments which you are passing. So next, constant running task. So you are going to use a new promise, resolve. So where it will be resolving in the 10,000 milliseconds means 10 seconds. So like that, you can able to you cancel the particular function after the 5 seconds. So now we have executed the program and it is showing task is running. So it will take 5 seconds and the task was cancelled. So now it will be returning to the original program. So like that, so it will be taking time. So whatever the timing we have mentioned in the program, so 10 seconds and 5 seconds. So that based upon that, it will be printing the message before the cancelling. Next, a promification example. So here we are using a util package. So it is using a required util package and we are using a file system package. So next, by using a file, so we are going to use a particular file name. So where you are going to check the particular file. The name of the file is config.json. So we need to save this particular file separately. So next, whenever you are going to run the program, so here we have given a try. So within the try, what we have given, we are reading the file by using a file promise. So read file promise. By using that, we are going to read the callback. So whatever the callback data is there, so that one will be written. So now whenever you are going to read the particular read config, so using a function, so here we are having a try. So try means, so we are going to keep the data within the try block, the code that may occur error. So here we have used a await read file promise config.json console.log. So here it is going to show config loaded and data. So whatever the data inside the particular file, so this is the particular data, so which we have given password 1 2 3, that particular data should be shown. So if not error, so error config, so it is going to show the error, whatever the error has occurred. So now what I am going to save, so the name of the file I am going to save config.json. So here I am going to copy this particular program. So config dot, so we are going to say in the format of JSON. So next what we need to do, so we need to copy the program. So whatever the program contains the promification logic, so that particular program we are going to save. Here we are going to save the program file JavaScript. Node space name of the program .js. So now what it has shown, so it has shown the content of the particular program. So whatever the JSON file we have kept, so that particular output has been shown. The next one, retry logic. So retry logic is going to handle the multiple failures. So it will be keep on trying to attempt in order to re-establish the connection. So retries failed operation up to the configuration number of times, adds delay between the retry attempts, rejects with the final error if all attempts to fail. Here we are using a retry. The function retries 3 times and delay time is 1 second. So here we are going to use the new promise resolve or reject. So there are two parameters, resolve and reject. And here we are using a constant attempt retries left. How many number of retries? So 3 number of retries. So like that we are going to use a particular function retries left. So again we are using a inner function. So then resolve. So we are using a catch error handling code. If any catch has been, any exception is caught, so then it comes inside the catch block. So if retries left is greater than 0, so then it is going to print a message retrying the attempts left. So 5 times is the number, 3 times is the number of, so how many number of attempts are there, so it will be showing. So set timeout attempts retries -1. So for example, number of retries is given is 3. So now next it is going to decreasing in order. So 2 and 1. So like that it is going to keep on retrying until the data is going to be fetched. Here let attempt count equal to 0. So now here we are using 2 parameters, which is new promise, resolve, reject. So now here we are going to attempt the 3 times. So it is going to print the message 3 attempt count. So next, if attempt count is less than 3, so it is going to show the failed attempt. So how many number of times it is left. So next, else, so resolve the data fetch successfully. So at attempt 3 or 4. So here among how many attempts the data has fetched successfully, it is going to show. So finally we are going to show retry fetch data. So here 3 is the count and 2000 is the number of milliseconds. So here we are using it, then console.log will be printed. So then finally catch console error will be printed on the screen. So here we are going to compile the program. So now it is going to show how many number of attempts left and how many number of, so attempt, at what attempt data has been fetched. At attempt 3 we have fetched the data successfully. So next, rate limit, it can able to restrict the number of function call within a specific time period to avoid the overloading services. The features are limits the number of calls, queues additional calls and executes them after interval, and resets the limit periodically. So here we are having a data. So where you are going to use a 3 particular parameter for the constant rate limit, function, limit and interval. And here we have given the particular function. So where, so here we have given a constant rate limit. It is having 3 parameters: function, limit and interval. So these 3 parameters are going to take. So function you can able to fetch the data, limit is 2 number of times and interval is 3000 milliseconds. So let calls equal to 0. So then we are using a queue is an array. So constant reset calls equal to set interval. So here you are going to set the interval. Calls is initially 0 while calls is less than limit and queue length is greater than 0. So it is less than 0 and queue length is greater than 0. If it is 1, then it will be printing. So otherwise, so then it will be exiting for the condition will be failed and it comes outside the loop. So where it is going to check the interval and it returns the number of arguments. So number of arguments either 2 or 3. So based upon the call limit. So if calls is less than limit and it is going to increment the call, so then it returns the how many number of arguments are set. Else new promise. So the 2 parameters we are using, resolve or reject. So based upon the above criteria which we have checked under the while loop. So now here we are going to push the particular data inside the queue. So where we are using a queue, so here based upon that we are going to push the data. So now function with the arguments resolve and catch and reject. So next here we are going to use a constant fetch data resolve. So it is going to show. So next here it is going to print the fetching the data whatever the ID is there. So ID will be keep on incrementing based upon the whatever the ID we have given. So now here we have given a resolve data ID equal to whatever the ID name and 1 second. After 1 second whatever the ID you have given that will be printed. So here limited fetch is 2 and 3 milliseconds and limited fetch. So we have given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These things we are going to consider for the ID. So then it is going to invoke the console.log message. So whatever the thing it is data it is fetching, so that one will be printed on the screen. So now it is going to fetching the data and whatever the data you have fetched, so it is going to show. So total 5 number of IDs we have given. So it has fetched the 5 number of IDs. So now it has exited. So now for example, if I am going to use a limited, so I am going to give 6. So it is going to print ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So data for ID 6 now it has stopped because it is keep on listening. So because no other items are in the queue. So it will take some time. After that, it will be done.